PocketDB is a highly optimized database application for the PC running Windows XP, Vista, Windows 7, Macs running Leopard, Snow Leopard, Lion, and mobile devices running Windows Mobile 6 and Apple iOS 4 and iOS 5. The key feature of PocketDB is to create, maintain, and share databases between desktop and a mobile device. The databases are kept amazingly small in size, while access speed is unbelievably fast on a mobile device. Today, you will learn the essentials about PocketDB databases, how to open and scroll through databases, how to search for entries, how to add and modify entries, and how to reactivate entries. More than 90% of all databases are just simple tables. The only reason why you would need a database application is that the access to the data is very convenient, especially when the databases have thousands of entries. PocketDB has been written to maintain this kind of large tables conveniently. Let's have a look onto a typical table. We take for this example the calorie database, that is just shown as a table. It has a header row that gives you descriptive information about the content that you find below. It has rows. Each row holds one set of complete information. It has columns. Each column holds the same type of data. In this showcase, the yellow column gives the weight of the protein portion of each food type. And finally, it has cells. Each cell holds one single piece of information. While we talk about databases, we often use different terms to describe the content, but the meaning is the same. Headers are basically called field names. Rows are called a dataset or record. Columns are called a list. And finally, cells are the field content. PocketDB can import any table that looks like this one into a database and also export each database to a table of that format. A later tutorial will show how to import and export databases. Let's open the shown calorie database in the real application and see where the field names, the datasets or records, and the field content can be found. To open a database on the desktop version, click here. You can also go to the File menu and click Open or the Open Recent entry and select one of the 5 recently opened databases. We select the calorie database. In the desktop version, the header, or in our terms, the so-called field names, can be found here. Click here to list the first complete datasets or records in a table also called rows. If you click here, you can scroll forward, and if you click here, you can go back. Let's do the same in the iOS version. Open the app. The list of available databases is just shown. Beside the name, also the last modification date and time, the size of the database, and the number of records can be found. Tap here to open the calorie database. Tap here to list the first complete datasets or records in a table also called rows. If you tap here, you can scroll forward, and if you tap here, you can go back. In the iOS version, not all available fields are listed, only maximum 4. To select those that should be shown in the list, tap the header entry. You can select a field to display for all of the 4 available positions. Let's display in the future carbohydrate instead of fat in the 4th position. Go back and tap here to list again. It'll now show what we have chosen. A great advantage of databases are query functions. In PocketDB, you can literally query or search for everything. Let's again use the calorie database as an example. We already have this database open on the desktop and the iOS version. We search for all records that contain canned. The search bar is located here on the desktop version and here on the iOS version. Let's type in the word we search for and press return on the desktop version. The arrows on the toolbar indicate that there is at least one further page of found entries. If you click here, The second page is shown. We can even go back with the now enabled back arrow. Let's do the same on the iOS version and enter the word we searched for and tap return. Also here, the arrow to the right indicates more pages to scroll. By tapping the right arrow, we go to the next page. Also in the iOS version, the back arrow is now enabled and we can search back. The search is reset if you tap here on the iOS version or click here in the desktop version. Then all entries beginning from the first found in the database is shown and the search is stopped. How does this work on the iPad? The iPad has a slightly different layout. In the portrait orientation, the database list is shown by tapping here. Also the info screen, the synchronization button and other controls are there. If you rotate the device into landscape orientation, a split window is shown with the list of databases to the left and the content to the right. That is actually the only difference. Every database application has a detail view or detail pane. That is actually the real difference to spreadsheet applications. The detail view allows you to enter, modify or just view exactly one row of a table, in our language of databases, exactly one record or dataset. In the iOS version, you enter the detail view by tapping an entry in the list. On the desktop version you need to double-click an entry or just click here while you have selected an entry. Large-scale databases even allow to define a special form to enter the data. In PocketDB the detail view is a list. Each list entry would represent a single cell in a table. In a database such an entry is called field content. The field names are just given above of each field in the iOS version and to the left of the content in the desktop version. Let's modify an entry in the iOS version. If you tap here an entry can be modified. I correct some of the values to higher values. By tapping here, the modifications are stored. Let's do the same on the desktop version. We actually remove one of the entries completely and store it. Let's close this one and open it again. What actually will happen is that the entry that was deleted is not shown anymore. By clicking here, we can ensure all entries are shown, also those that are empty. The feature of hiding empty cells is useful in databases where you have many fields but only a few have content in each record. PocketDB has another important feature. It allows one field to have multiple lines of content. This is extremely useful if you, for example, have multiple mobile phone numbers to enter. We will quickly show how this works in the iOS version. I again enter the edit mode by tapping here. Now I make a remark to this value and press enter. A second empty line will be inserted and I can modify the line and enter some data. Let's save that and see how this appears. The same can be done in the desktop version. To do that there are the plus and minus buttons. The plus button allows to add a line. The minus button to remove it. There is one more thing in this tutorial. PocketDB does not simply overwrite entries. Instead, the old datasets are stored unless they are completely cleaned out. Read more about cleaning and sorting of databases in the documentation of the desktop version. Until those entries are not cleaned, they are still there and can even be recalled and reactivated if wished. Let's just see what garbage datasets we have in the meantime on the iOS version. By tapping the wastebasket switch, the toolbar is colored red and the list is cleaned. If I now search or list, PocketDB will only return deleted or overwritten records. I now will reactivate my original entry in the calorie database. Tap here and here to reactivate the original entry. Tap here to return to the normal mode. Let's list again all entries. You can see that I have one entry now 2 times, one with the original content, one that has the modified content. I just remove the modified and we are done. The desktop version has of course the same feature, by clicking here and then here. Thank you for watching this tutorial. Discover more on www.tz-software.com.